Hello, I'm Guy Stapleford and welcome to the Veloccino Cycling Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Veloccino Cycling Podcast, where the best stories have not yet been written. This week we are joined by a man who says he's just the average Joe, the average guy in the street, if you like, Guy Stapleford. Guy is far from the average guy in the street, however, because he is an ultra runner, but also an ultra cyclist. He's travelled thousands of kilometres whilst on his bike, both outside and inside. He's taken on some of the biggest challenges in cycling, and yet he's done this all in less than 5 years. It's been a fantastic journey, and we're going to hear from the man right now. So, Guy, welcome to the Veloccino podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. Very well. It's lovely to have you here as well.
Also, actually, I want to say, I think I follow you for such a long time already, like on Instagram. And the amount of times we had contact where I said, like, oh, can you come to the show? And you always said, like, yes. And, and then I never followed up.
I think I asked you, didn't I, in the end?
I was like, oh, yes,
it's like
please,
a marriage.
Exactly. Must have been a leap year. Must have been a leap year for the guests to ask the hosts to come on. Absolutely.
Well, we can blame COVID, right? I think
exactly.
It has. And also, well, let's face it, this is a special day for us in the Veloccino, Casa Veloccino, because this is the first time in over 2 years we've actually had a guest with us in the studio, which is fantastic. So
honoured.
It's brilliant to have you here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's fantastic.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, so thank you very much.
Excellent. Well, look, we're talking about kind of like, you know, it's the new year, it's new beginnings and all that kind of stuff. And it's a question that I rarely ask when we meet these elite athletes. It's where it all begins for you with a bike, which is, where did you learn to ride a bike?
I'd love to have some amazing story, but I guess, you know, I was an average kid who had an average bike and rode it around the village where I grew up. You know, I grew up in North Dorset, which is really, really rural. And me and my brother just had these really rubbish bikes, and we just used to ride them around the village and tear around this kind of parking lot across the road. And that was that. Never really kind of took riding for more than just a bit of fun as a kid. And I think, you know, when you grow up, you sort of either you do riding for commuting and I didn't really do any of that. It was just
like a means to an end to have some fun on a bike.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just part of growing up, you know. I listened to Mark Beaumont, and he talked about, you know, he rode his bike from an early age and then cycled across Scotland when he was 12, and you just think, yeah, I didn't do any of that.
No, this often amazes me is that, particularly with cycling, often even at elite level, you know, we've talked to professional cyclists like Anna Henderson and various others, who the story starts with, well, I got injured from my real sport, and then I took up cycling as a part of the recovery. Exactly. But I mean, everyone gets into cycling in that different way, and so I also assume that, you know, when I meet these elite athletes, as we get to through the podcast,
you keep using the word elite as well.
I know. Look, trust me, mate. Look, if you can run 2 laps of this block, as far as we're concerned, right, you're an elite. So let me just put that into context. But for you, I mean, when you were at school, were you kind of like the sporty kid at school? Were you, you know, captain the football team, all that kind of stuff?
No, I was. I think in every aspect of my life, I've always been the ambitious amateur. So, like, in my head, I'm the best and the fastest and the greatest, and then the body.
Oh, me too, by the way.
And the body just doesn't quite meet that expectation. But yeah, no, I was a good runner at school. I did cross country and a bit of track and stuff, and you know, I was, you know, up there, never the winner, but, you know, close enough. And I did a few county races, and I enjoyed it. But my parents aren't sporty in any way. They like watching Formula One, but, you know, they were never big. So I never had that push really to kind of become anything more than I wanted to be. And I was really academic at school. Like, I was, you know, I can't, you know, without sort of trying to sound stupid, but I am quite intelligent. So I think for me, it was just always that became the default, you know. I was just better in the classroom, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's really interesting as well that, well, we'll come back to that. But again, another thing, there's something, we keep finding this crossover between people who like long distance races and people who seem to have been really, really good at maths or good at school and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We seem to have that crossover. Always fascinating.
Pretty annoying, isn't it? This is why I'm not.
Yeah, these are just, we're just listening to
Maths and
excuses
sport.
why we can't do it. Absolutely. So that was cycling back then. Now, obviously, there was then obviously quite a big gap before you kind of got back into cycling, and it's one of those things where, we've looked at, done the research, you've done other things before, and it wasn't necessarily the most positive reason to come through it. But
No.
So, just in your own words, what was it that sort of, where were you at, and what got you back to cycling?
Well, yeah. So I don't suppose I was ever really into cycling. I suppose that was the thing. I guess it was as a result of, as you say, a journey I've been through. So it's sort of long, really. But I suppose the nutshell of it is I'd come out of university and I was just really unhappy. I think I'd felt pretty unfulfilled, and I like you do at university, you drink a lot, and that was that. And we got married and we had kids, and all of those feelings sort of came back and hit me really hard in my early 30s. And rather than I was the typical man, I guess, rather than actually dealing with the problem and talking about it, I just started drinking again, and the drinking just got worse, and I got really unwell. Unfortunately, I had pancreatitis, and I got hospitalised with that, and was I was unwell for a long time. And it's really sobering when you have someone sort of telling you you're an alcoholic and that if you drink again you're going to die, and I was really shameful. And I went home and I thought to myself, right, Guy, let's sort yourself out. I ate really badly, I drank loads, and I was in a really stressful job, and so the worst thing is I lasted about 4.5 months and I was back drinking again, and I got unwell again. So I suppose about 2 years of pain that I went through, it made me sort of realise that I felt really empty and unhappy and unfulfilled, and that's not a criticism of my life at all, because that's I had everything I could have ever wanted in a wife and my 2 kids, but I wasn't kind of getting anywhere. So I made the decision that I needed to leave, and I left my partner and the kids, and that's genuinely one of the hardest things I've ever done, because it felt really selfish at the time, and I felt for a long time really guilty about doing it. But I knew in my heart that to get better, that's what I had to do. And I moved out and I found my own place, and and I sort of made this pact to myself that I just desperately didn't want to go back to being that guy again of drinking and kind of sitting in front of the TV and moping. So I bought a pair of trainers from Sports Direct, and I said, right, I'm going to try running, and if I can run to work, which was about 6 miles from where I lived, I'll be really happy with that. And then it just sort of all went on from there. And I sort of seen all these people doing mad things, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool to do London to Brighton? So I just went on eBay and I bought this road bike, having never ridden a road bike before, and clipless pedals and all, clipping pedals and all that. And I had to completely rebuild this bike, but I just thought, right, well, I'm just going to do some stuff and see what happens. And here we are 5 years later.
It's brilliant. I was going to say, it's one of those things where I love how so many stories start with, so I bought this second-hand bike off eBay and just give it a go. And unfortunately, you're taking away excuses for me and Niels, because we're always complaining the only reason we're not elite athletes is because we haven't got the right bike, or that's the only thing holding us back. We just need like better pedals and a new handlebar or something, I don't know. Something we can make up. But because it's really interesting what you're saying there, because it's amazing. I mean, we'll talk about all the positive stuff about where it's taken you, which is fantastic. But it must have been really tough at that time. As you said, they told you were an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Before they told you that, did you see that in yourself, or was it one of those things where you saw yourself? I think, like many people, I'm not eating the right stuff and I'm drinking a bit, but I'm all right.
Yeah, I definitely think I just I was in a cycle of I'd get up at sort of 5-6 o'clock in the morning, I'd go to work, and I was a consultant at the time, so I was traveling lots of different places and lots of different clients and trying to sell work. And, I was fueling my day with massive coffees and junk food and sugar. And then I'd get home and, if you're a parent, as soon as you walk in the door, the kids want to be on you and they want your attention, and I found that really hard to deal with. And, the kids would go to bed, and then, the beer would be open, or the wine would be open. And it just started off, as most people do, as that relaxing thing. And the relaxing, the more you drink, the more you have to drink to get that same buzz. And, it's like with any drug, isn't it? Coffee's the same, it numbs over time. And I just found myself drinking more and more. And, my partner, my wife at the time, would go to bed, and, I would try and drink as much as I possibly could before I'd go to bed, without it looking weird that I was going up really late. So yeah, I never really thought it was a problem.
Yeah.
It was just that day when I woke up, I realised something just really, really wasn't right, and then passed out on the bathroom floor about halfway through the day, because I couldn't stop being sick. And then it was like, okay, yeah, something's really wrong here, but never really clicked that it was the alcohol. And then when I woke up in the hospital and kind of had the drips and stuff and was a bit more with it, the nurses were sort of talking to me, and then the consultant come round and he did the whole shaming speech, and I was a bit like, you've got this, it's a bit like Scrubs, and you've got this whole group of undergrads or whatever they are,
no way,
around the bed, and this girl had talked through my notes, and the guy just went, right, okay, Mr. Stapleford, you're an alcoholic. If you drink again, you're going to be back here wasting the NHS's money, or worse, you'll die.
Wow.
And then they walked off, and I was like, I don't know how to process any of this.
That's
but it was
incredible.
It was sort of, the wake up call in a way I needed, but I suppose it took me 2 years to actually hear that, and really understand what it meant.
And it's so difficult as well, I think, particularly as a man, is you could have easily had a conversation with somebody else who would often say, I go home, oh yeah, the kids are really tough. Yeah. And would also say, oh yeah, me and my wife were sat down last night, we had a nice glass of wine. And you can pick up on that and think, okay, this is quite normal what I'm doing, and this is what we're all doing, and it's pretty similar to everybody else. And it's amazing how easily you can slip down that and get it to a point where you
absolutely. And I think that it's that hiding it, I think, is the classic, isn't it? Any addiction is, as soon as you start having to hide something, there's a problem, I guess. So I think I've talked to so many people, like you say, that say, I wonder if they sort of ask me, well, do you think I drink too much? And I sort of said, well, I can't judge that, because yourself, don't you? I think when you start to be really honest with yourself, you ask yourself the hard questions, don't you? And I think that's when, I had to grow up a little bit and start saying to myself, well, right, okay, what are we going to do about this?
Yeah.
I have to make some changes.
I have 2 questions there. Like, first of all, when you were in hospital and they came to you and told you that, did you believe them? Or was it like first like, come on, bug off. It's not me. It's like, this would be like one question. And the second one is, you said you are hiding it, but I feel when you're hiding something, you have to have come to the realization that something is wrong.
Yeah.
At that time, did you actually realize that something was wrong? Because a couple of people that I know that had a difficult relation with alcohol, they were never in the situation where they thought something is not right, because I just drink a couple of beer on Monday, and for them it was like just a normal thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so. The first question was
if you believed it.
Oh, if I believed it. Yeah, sorry. I think it was more disbelief than anything. I sort of thought, well, I don't know. I don't really understand how this has happened. And I think it took a while for me to realise that, so a pancreatitis is sort of either gallstones generally, so it's older gentlemen, or it's alcohol. They're the 2 driving factors behind it. So I didn't have gallstones, so there was really, I was sort of stuck with, well, I don't really believe it, but there isn't anything else. So I just kind of had to accept it. And the first things that sort of went through my mind were, my God, all of these things in life, these amazing life moments that I'm going to go through, and I'm not going to be able to have a drink. And I thought, my kids, when they're 18 or 21 or when they graduate or, birthdays or whatever. And I thought, God, I'm not going to be able to drink at those. And the more I look back at that and think that was my first reaction, I think, God, that's pretty wrong in itself, isn't it? Like if you're associating life events with alcohol, then yeah. But
and the reason why I think it's great that you're so open about this, and the reason I'm sure for everybody listening and watching and why we're asking this a little bit is also there will be people out there that are in that situation right now, and they're probably sat there thinking to themselves, well, perhaps I'm in that same place, and it doesn't sound like you had the greatest support from the doctors when they told you, you're an alcoholic, you could be dead, you waste NHS money, see you later, goodbye, next bed. But what I think's really interesting, and sort of like for people perhaps in that situation, to think about like the fact that you did something about it, and you've taken that first step. So what I love is that the first step you took was not too crazy. That first step was buy a pair of trainers from Sports Direct, or it was like go get a bike from eBay. But then and how quickly was it after that you started on that track that you started to feel like, okay, actually I'm kind of on the road to kind of getting myself a little bit more focused in a different direction now?
Not long. I'm really goal driven in life. So everything I do, my career was, it was all about that next step. So, I worked really hard in my day job to get to a really high level in my career. And that was brilliant, but that was part of the problem as well. But with the running, it was like, it just became I can do 5K. Well, why don't I go and try and do 10K? And then 10K became, I'm going to sign up for a half marathon. And I'd sort of signed up to 2 races by, I think, the Christmas of 2016. And I thought to myself, I wonder if I could do one different thing every month in 2017. And then it kind of got me thinking about, well, why don't I do it for charity and try and talk about what I'm doing and really share the sort of journey and join social media. And I'd never really been a big social media person either, because I've always been quite private. And I think that's part of I've never really been honest about who I am and my problems and my struggles. And I really wanted to just flip that on its head and kind of try and talk about it and learn to talk about it. So yeah, it was within a few months I'd signed up for a half marathon, a marathon, a 10K race, and then I'd bought the bike on eBay, and I thought, I definitely know I want to do London to Brighton. And then sort of just started Googling things I could do, and then came across John O'Groats to Land's End, which is, now I understand it is the quintessential long distance cycling thing if you're a UK cyclist. And I said, well, I'm going to do Land's End to John O'Groats in 2017. But because I wasn't quite physically ready, it just sort of getting pushed back. And then it was like November. And I was like, I can't do it in December because then it'll be really horrible. So I'm going to just have to do it in November. And honestly, I just had the worst weather. Scotland was super, super cold. It was like freezing for 2 days. And then when I got down to the southwest, it was 2 days of this horrific storm. And I spent, I think, those last 2 days just crying while I was riding, because I'd never been that far in my life before. And I'd done, 9 days basically of 100 miles back to back. And, but also that it was really cathartic. Like I'd done it on solo. So 9 days in your own head, it's quite a long time.
Yeah.
And, I'd some days I'd go a whole day without speaking. And I'd get to the pub or the hotel or whatever at the end of the day and kind of think, God, I haven't actually spoken all day. Anyway, I got to the last few days and all these sort of emotions start coming back about, I'm nearly there. And, just made me think about really why I was doing it and what deal with some of the guilt I felt about, the booze and the breakdown of the marriage and leaving the kids. And, but it made me realise that, in my heart, I knew I'd done the right thing because of the relationship I've now got with my children that is so much better because I'm I'm a more active parent, and I'm a more engaged parent because of it. Whereas before I was just a horrible shell of a man, you know.
But and it's interesting that you say that, because I think these I often find, longer distance running or longer distance cycling, because it is repetitive, it's almost a meditation. It almost gets you into a point where even if you're not actively thinking, if you know what I mean, you're just going through the motions. There's some part of our brain that's dealing with ourselves and our life and taking things in.
Oh, absolutely. And for me, that was part of the reason for starting the running and the cycling, was that it was just an easy way to get outside, away from every other distraction in life, and just almost turn my brain off. And like you say, have that meditative time of just enjoying something for just pure pleasure of doing it. Yeah. And that's, ultimately when I come back to, I've got like this weekend, I've got to go and ride a stupid amount of hours. But if I just keep focusing on the fact that I just really love riding my bike, then it makes it a tiny bit easier.
I just have a question there, because somehow when you're like so long on your bike, it's like meditation and stuff.
Yeah.
But what also it is, you can't escape processing your thoughts while you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
And I just wonder, because you have come through like a really horrible time, did it not also drag you down a bit? Because I just want to say, what you have achieved there, just flipping your life around, not many people are able to do that. I think the majority of men, especially men, I think will just, when they get told something like this, they fall into an even deeper hole.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is one of those things, and I do think you're right. You go one way or the other, and I was so determined that all of that heartbreak and pain that I'd caused by leaving, I couldn't make that worse. I needed to make it better. And I've always sort of talked about cycling is a bit of a ride to redemption for me. I really wanted it to make me a better person, but also to try and change, not necessarily the world, because that's huge and you can't do that on your own, but change my bit of the world. And that's why I'm supporting the two local charities that I'm supporting, and talking about my mental health and my journey. And because if it helps one person or makes someone realize that you can do it, it's hard. I don't know if I made it sound easy, but it's taken 5 years for me to not feel guilty about ending my marriage. So it's not easy.
And also I imagine looking back now, it's almost like when things have turned out all right again, if you like, it's easier to think about. But the one thing I think if anyone's listening to this and in that situation is, it still takes that first step. You've still got to take those steps, and those first steps are going to be horrible and it's hard, but you need to do it to get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the one thing that I've got to say, so look, you've brought yourself out of this and you started down this journey, and for, positive reasons, giving yourself something to focus on.
Yeah.
Just to touch on the fact that you did Land's End, John O'Groats to Land's End in your first year of properly cycling, because I think something that, and we'll come on to this in a bit, is something that I am astonished when I meet people like you, is the fact that you're like, somebody shows you a challenge and you're like, if another human being can do it, why couldn't I do it? It's like that approach of how hard could this be? And
that's the exact mindset I go through with everything. It's, well, if they've done it, well, surely I can do it as well.
And it's just incredible mental strength and approach, because John O'Groats and Land's End in your first year, and I've got, for those watching, this is why I've got the iPad out, so I can go through the list. And then your next year, it's the coast-to-coast sprint, it's 3 peaks by bike, it's London to Paris. So this is the second, not even your first full year of riding. Then we're into the Welsh 3 Peaks record.
Yeah.
Then we're into Sufferfest, Knighthood. We're into the virtual race across the West, London, Land's End, London, Everesting. I'm going to come back to the Everesting because that was a local event and we've got to talk about that. The virtual Revolve 24. So that's 24 hours, normally round Brands Hatch.
That's right, yeah.
Tough enough on its own. Tell you what, because it's COVID, why don't we get people to do it indoors, right? Like where their bed is next to them and the nice warm sofa is next to them, right? Why don't we chuck that in? And then, and now that's like your first 3 years kind of thing. So
it's mad, isn't it?
it has been. It's been so fascinating looking at those big things. So on that list, what stands out for you in your memory? What was the one where you're kind of most proud of, or?
I think it's a really hard question because I was talking to, we'll probably touch on it, but I went to Mallorca in the end of the summer last year, and I was talking to a lady called Amy Williams, and Amy's done Transamerica, which is a different race to what I'm doing, but you kind of go across America. And we were talking about all these things that we've done, and we both we hit on this thing of you get to the end and it's sort of that feeling of, well, I've done that now, and it's sort of really empty. There's no real like finish line, and there's no real fanfare, and it's not I've never sort of really felt proud or satisfied with any of the things that I've done because I'm so self-critical that it could have always been better or faster or harder, or did I nearly break myself enough by doing that?
Do you know, it's so fascinating you say that. When we talk to other, particularly distance-focused athletes, we hear exactly the same thing. If I actually made it over the line without crawling by my fingertips and then being in a coma for a couple of days, I don't think I really pushed myself hard enough. It's like almost that sense of, and even if you did do that, there's a sense of, I could probably do it faster next year. It's just fascinating that mindset. But I guess this is what feeds the beast, and this is why you need the next challenge and the next one.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, if I was to say which was the one I'm most proud of, I think it's the Welsh Three Peaks, because it was a record attempt, and it's British, and I took a good amount of time off the record as well, and I held it for a year, and a guy called Hugh Jones, damn you, Hugh. He's now got the record off me. But I could go back and do it again, but I'm not going to, because it's one of those things that it's not a world record, but it's still a record. So I'm happy with that. And we raised a really great amount of money as well. So.
Well, that's it. Well, look, let's talk a little bit about that, as it is one of your favourites. Just to give a little bit more detail for the listeners. So what is the challenge? How far is it? And what was the time?
Yeah, so it's the Welsh Three Peaks, which is the three highest peaks in Wales. You do it. You'd walk it and drive between them, but instead of driving between, I cycled between them. So it's about 140 miles of cycling. Then you've got Snowdon. I did Snowdon first, then Cadair Idris in the middle, if I've said that correctly, and Penny-fan at the end. So, yeah, it's run up a mountain, run down, cycle to the next one, run up and down, cycle to the next one, run up and down.
Do you know what? When you say it like that, it sounds so easy.
Yeah. But it was brilliant because it was just so different from any of the things I'd done before, and I love the adventure aspect of climbing a mountain. I think that's really cool and just kind of goes to my inner child a little bit. And then, jump on a bike and cycle to the next one. And Wales is amazing. It's an amazing place to cycle. And I've had some of my best memories in Wales and Scotland as well, to be fair. So yeah, I loved it for lots of different reasons. And getting to the top of Penny-fan, knowing that I'd got the record, was like sort of paid. It felt like I'd all of the hard work of those years before had sort of paid off a little bit. And celebrating for Make-A-Wish, who is the charity that I was raising the money for at the time, was amazing. And then kind of got down the mountain, and just have the sort of nice, kind words from some famous people like Mark Beaumont. And it was nice, it's a nice sort of icing on the cake, really.
Brilliant.
Do you have any Welsh relatives? Any Welsh roots?
No, none at all.
Because this family, like my wife, she's half Welsh.
Oh,
actually.
wow, okay.
Our children are quarter Welsh. So
there you go.
If they would have been around already, then they most probably would have cheered for Bjorn. But,
Okay.
Anyways.
The poor kids, they're learning. They obviously they speak English and German, and they're also being taught Welsh at the same time.
Oh wow!
By their grandmother. So lots of fun in terms of language.
It's amazing.
It is. So that was your favourite one.
Yeah.
That was great. Now I have got to address one of your fantastic challenges, because this is one of the ones, as Neil said, we've been following you for some time, and when I heard you were doing this, this one event, this is probably more for anybody local to the Chilterns, right? is that
I think your response to that when I told you about it, we were like, for fuck's sake.
I think my phrase was fucking mental. But the thing is, it's a you chose to Everest, and you chose to Everest up a hill called Whiteleaf in the Chilterns. Now, for everybody locally who knows that, I can imagine there was a sort of sharp intake of breath as they heard you were going to Everest up that. And also, Whiteleaf features, I think it's in the top 20 climbs in the UK. Or
it does, yeah. It's the 100, 100 greatest climbs. Yeah.
That's right, yeah. And it's in around number 20, I think, in my head. So it's a pretty good climb. Now, for those of us that know it, it kind of, can you remember what the average gradient is for it?
I think it's about 9%.
But
you start off like on a 50% wall or something.
Yeah, there is one particular corner that you have to do every time, which I don't know what that goes up to. Is that 30-odd%? I think
it's nasty. It's that right-hander, isn't right-hander, isn't it? And it's it brought fear into my heart 75 times.
Exactly. Well, now so. Like, see, all the local cyclists, we all know, everyone who knows this climb knows that, you start off, you try and pace yourself, you get to that corner, you just do whatever you can around that corner, and then you just hang on to your lungs and your heart as best you can until it flattens out for a very short section where you basically, if you're feeling strong, you put a couple of extra pedal strokes in to catch your mate in front or put some distance in, or if you're more like me, you just recover just about enough to then finish off the climb and pretend.
Or like me, here I can get off the saddle and push.
Exactly. So look, it's a cracking climb. So
it is.
Why did you select such a? I mean, knowing you a little bit now, we know why you selected the toughest climb you could find. But how did you choose where you went, and why that one?
Well, Everesting had always sort of been in my head of a challenge that I wanted to do. And a friend of mine, Ewan, was a serial Everester, and he talked very highly about it and how much of a mental challenge it was. And I think for me, becoming mentally stronger has always sort of been a feature of what I've tried to do. So I knew I wanted to do Everesting. And so a few weeks before that, I did a virtual Everesting on Zwift just to make sure I could do it, because I didn't want to go out and say I was going to do Whiteleaf and then crack after 10 reps or something. So we did the virtual on Zwift, and I think that was about 16 hours, so I wasn't quick or anything.
16 hours on Zwift?
Yeah.
So, my goodness gracious.
So I sort of thought, right, okay, I've done that, and it wasn't horrific. I mean, it was not pleasant at all, but I thought, right, I'm going to commit to, and then, so I tested a few hills locally that I thought I might do. And in my head, I was thinking, well, I'm going to go for the shallowest one because that's easier on my legs. But then the shallower the hill, the more reps you have to do to get the 8,500 meters, isn't it? Meters.
Yeah.
And then that, when I put it in the Everesting calculator, it was going to take me like 32 hours.
Of course, because
no, I can't do that. Yeah. So I sort of had to do Whiteleaf in a way, just to stay within sort of 24 hours. And we had a false start as well, which is really irritating. So I had a carbon road bike that was my first carbon road bike, and I'd spent £2,500 on it, and it wasn't flashy, but it was just, I loved it. Custom paint job as well. And I'd started my Everesting Whiteleaf attempt, and I think I was on about 18 or 19 laps, and I just got to that corner, stood up to put my foot down, and the gear hanger at the back snapped clean through, and basically wrote the bike off for a couple of reasons, and so I had to coast back down the hill. Couldn't make it work, so that was binned that one off, and then got a new bike, and off I went to do it again. So I had
on the same day.
No, God, no, not the same day.
On the same day.
No, I gave it a week. I went back the next week, and as I say, it was 70. I think it's 75 laps up and down, and I was doing it in reps of 5. So it's about 10 minutes at a steady pace, the climb. up and back and up and back. And I did 5 and then jumped off for 10 minutes, had a break, and then got back on and did it again. And it is just that breaking it up does make it easier. Just all you've got to focus on is 5 reps, and I can do 5 reps, and I know I can do 5 reps. Just keep doing that.
Yeah,
eating lots.
See, it's such a tricky climb, and so of course this is a little bit for the local people who know the climb, but of course that is so tough. But something I was really interested in, I don't often. I think when we go out cycling, the first little bit, until you get to that point where it really hurts, and because let's face it, us cyclists are a bit weird, right? We actually quite like the bit where it hurts, and there's often, we all have I always think there's that little bit in our head that what do we do to focus to keep the pedals going round? So I was just really curious for you, when you're in that place, because of course for you it's probably takes a lot longer than it takes me and Niels to get to that place, but when you get to that place and you're just, there's part of your brain, I'm sure there's part of your brain that does say, look, can I do this kind of thing? Where do you go? What's your thing? I mean, do you focus differently? Do you eat something? Do you have a habit that you try to do to keep you going?
I think you have lots of different things, because I suppose it's like the runner's wall, isn't it? When you're on a marathon, and you always get to that point of, oh my God. So I've got lots of different things I do. I think the biggest thing for me, and part of the whole story around changing my life, is just the reason why and a purpose. And I think now I've got to where I am, I think the biggest thing I was missing before was purpose. And there's a really great line. A guy called Alex Staniford has written a book, Another Peak, about his own challenges with an eating disorder and his mental health. And in it, he says, we need purpose, not pills. And I had antidepressants when I was younger, and they help. But I was adamant that this time around I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to have the antidepressants. So I think the purpose is the biggest thing that's always pushed me along where I want to go, and having a reason for doing the challenges and the charity behind it. And you sort of feel like you owe something to the people that have donated and the charity themselves as well. So that's a huge stick for me to beat myself with, in terms of, come on, don't let people down. But yeah, can be as simple as just having something nice in your bike bag or your jersey to pick you up. And I've recently got into having those. Is it the caramel biscuit? The gold and red stripy old school biscuits.
Yes.
Is it Tunnocks or something?
They are. The caramel biscuits. Yeah. They are my daughter's favourite.
Yeah. But I've discovered they've got 20 grams of carbohydrate in,
really?
which on the bike's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But actually, they taste really nice, and it feels like a real treat to have it. So that it's that or Haribo for me. The little freebie bags of Haribo you get in the Wiggle parcel. Store them, and then they come out whenever I'm doing something long. So I just think it's just something that lifts you up a little bit, isn't it? I think.
To be fair, I think for me the little packs from Wiggle, they're not big enough.
No, true. I tried Percy Pigs the other day, but they're just too damn hard to chew when you're trying to breathe as well.
They used to have rosy noses. I don't know if you remember them. They were amazing, perfect size to chew. Like, they were really good. Came in a big size, but they don't do them anymore.
Do you know what? We're missing this out. Next podcast we do, I think we should do a taste test. I think we should have every cycling snack we can think of piled up and just. Well, I mean, we're not going to do any cycling while we do it. We're just going to eat them. Oh, maybe we could get on Zwift and see which one is the easiest to undo whilst riding.
Well, that's the biggest problem with sports products as well, is you've got big, thick gloves on and wet hands. Yeah. Why not pre-cut the packet? The amount of times when I was doing the Land's End to John O'Groats, was thinking, why can't I just get into this bar of everything else that's going on? I just want to eat.
Just put like mashed potatoes in your rear pocket.
That's it. Or you find yourself just actually chewing through. Talking of mashed potatoes, I did know somebody once who used to have cold mini roast potatoes.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
I've done that. When I did my first half Ironman, I had just normal potatoes salted in a little pouch. And it was amazing. It was actually really nice. It just made a mess. Like, it was really disgusting.
This mate of mine swears by it. He says it's absolutely the perfect thing. But there you go.
That's really nice.
So anyhow, so yes, enough of the snacks. So look, with all these things you're doing, I'm really interested. Obviously, is we often, for other people, perhaps thinking, okay, this could be a journey that I can go on. Probably not quite to where you've gone to, but
anything's possible.
Absolutely, anything's possible. But it was really interesting. Has having this purpose now with the sport and everything, what's been the knock-on effect on the kind of like the life around sport and outside of it? Is it, has it given you more purpose, more focus? Has it helped in some ways?
I do think it has. Yeah, I think it's focused the mind on. I think from my personal relationship side of things, it's given me clarity on what I want from a relationship. So again, I'm not in any way going to sort of criticise my marriage and my life before, but I really know now, truly in my heart, what I'm prepared to accept in terms of behaviours from someone else. And that's the really great thing about the relationship I'm in now with my partner. We got together because of our history and being able to find someone that I could open my heart and my life and all of those dark corners that I'd never spoken to anyone about before was so liberating and just amazing. And that's, the bond that we've got, I think. So yeah, it absolutely focuses the mind on relationships and just my wider life. I've met some incredible people, done some amazing things that doors have opened that could have never opened had I not gone through what I've been through. So I think, I'm just so grateful. But I think people think I've got this charmed life where, just things fall into my lap, and yeah, maybe they have, but I guess, you have to work at it, and maybe it's a bit of personality, and maybe I'm a bit ballsy, and I just ask people for stuff, because I think sometimes you got to be a bit upfront, and certainly with doing something like Race Across America, that's going to cost me personally about £15,000 to get out and do the race. So the more help I can get, the better. And sometimes you just do have to be a little bit, help me, please.
Yeah.
What can you do for me?
But I guess all of that comes from that purpose. You know what your purpose is, and therefore you've got the confidence to go out and ask it.
Absolutely.
That's great. That's great.
Super interesting because I think we spoke about microphone because we've spoken about that in many episodes before, because it's so easy to always say like, oh yeah, you are lucky, stuff that happens to you.
Yeah.
No, we strongly believe that you have to work hard to put yourself in a position that the moment when luck strikes, you are ready, right? Yeah. Like if you would be whatever, like in this other situation, like you were like years and years ago, and somebody would offer you, hey, do you want to race across America? I'm pretty sure you would have said no.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's really hard work to get there first.
Yeah.
And then when there's like luck that strikes, to be able to take it on. So
absolutely. And I think one of the things that, people ask me is, well, you'd have done this anyway, wouldn't you? And I genuinely think if I'd still been married and I would have never have taken up cycling. I'd have just never have done it because I didn't have that impetus and I didn't have that drive to want to do something. Yeah. So I do believe everything happens for a reason. I'm not a religious man, but I think things do click and happen, and you make your own luck in this world, don't you? I suppose.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, that's basically it, right? I just wondered, like your partner now, does she also do sports?
Yeah, we met. So we work at the same company at the moment, and we met because I'd seen this thing called it's Tower 42 in London, and Shelter do a run up it.
Yeah, I've seen this. Yeah,
42 flights of stairs up this the old NatWest building in London, and I saw this, and it was for Shelter. We work in social housing, and so Shelters, that's kind of what they do. So I said, well, wouldn't it be great if we got a team of people from the housing association we work for, and got them to run up these steps. So I enrolled one person, and I got two, and it was three of us, and we needed one more. And it ended up, I was emailing the whole company saying, right, we need someone who's going to volunteer. And this girl volunteered and said, yeah, I'll do it. And we just got chatting, and made really great friends with the four of us, and we continued this run club, and we were just great friends for a long time, really. And neither of us wanted to take it further or do anything with it. It was just nice to have someone that you could just have a coffee with and a chat with, and there'd be nothing else to it. But yeah, after a while, obviously, it blossomed into a relationship. But yeah, she's a runner, but she broke her foot falling down the stairs.
But not running up the...
Not running up the tower. No, just at home. So she's really suffered with that. But she's definitely an aspiring sports person. She wants to do a marathon. So yeah, really kind of pushing her on to hopefully do that this year or maybe next. So
excellent. Excellent. Well, look, good luck. This is the thing. This is what we're missing, I think, in the podcast. We should have her here, really. Yeah. So
we have to work at home together all the time. So then,
no, I was going to say this is your escape. Yeah, no,
we have to have a call-in feature, maybe.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think.
Sorry, we keep saying she. What's her name?
It's Louise.
Louise. Well, Louise. I'm sure. I do hope you listen to this podcast at some time. Next time, maybe we'll have you on rather than Guy.
Well, I think it's probably worth saying that all of the things I do and the time away from my family and my life, I couldn't do any of it without her. Yeah. I think anyone who's a sports person or does these kind of things will probably attest to you have to have a understanding and supportive partner, don't you? And I'm just really grateful for her.
Yeah,
her support.
So good,
absolutely. So now, just coming on to thinking about the future, because we mentioned Race Across America a couple of times. Now, I mean, you've taken on some big challenges. I mean, I think Race Across America, I mean, look, just first of all, touching on what you had to go through to qualify for it. Because that I'll be honest, that I think almost is tougher, I think, in some ways. But
yes, it's so Race Across America is known as the world's toughest bike race, and it isn't called that for no reason. So you have to, if you want to do it as a soloist, you have to qualify. You have to be good enough. And so the qualification is in the UK, Revolve 24 at Brands Hatch, or, well, that's, I think, the only UK one actually at the moment. There's a couple in Ireland that you can do.
Chiltern 100, maybe?
Sorry?
The Chilterns 100?
No, sadly not yet. Maybe in the future. We sort of touched on Revolve 24. Unfortunately, because of COVID, that couldn't happen. So they made it virtual on a cycling app called Full Gas, which is an equivalent to Zwift, but it's more real life videos rather than games. We had to ride round 6 iconic racetracks, so Silverstone, Brands Hatch, Monaco, Nürburgring, and the Bend in Australia. I think that's 6. And we had to do that, and we had to clock up 600 kilometres in 24 hours. Wow. Don't ask me how many miles that is because I've forgotten.
Lots.
400
many,
something, isn't it?
Many.
Yeah. And I was about 15k short of the qualifying distance, and I was so gutted. And that was, I think, in the August of 2019. No, 2020. Yeah, 2020. And then in January 2021, the Virtual World Time Trial Championships, which are normally held in Borrego Springs in California, came around, and that was another opportunity to qualify. And I qualified by a humongous 5 kilometres. I did 605.6 kilometres in 24 hours, which is insane.
Let's face it, right? They obviously want to check that people they're not going to be sweeping up sort of like bones or finding people like months later somewhere strewn across America. So they obviously want to make sure that you can do it, but you can, if you can do 585, you can probably do 600. Let's say it's that one. So quick question on that, actually. Right. So you're on your bike.
Yes.
In the house.
Yes.
Which I think, as I was saying earlier, I think is tougher because you've got the opportunity to just get off and just sod this, right? For a game of soldiers, I'll do something different, right?
Yes.
So you've got all of that going on, and then you get to 585, not 600.
Yeah.
How do you, or how quickly, how do you turn that round from the inevitable, what the fuck, to actually I've learned something, I can take it forward? How do you do that?
Blogging's been a big thing for me. So my brain is quite chaotic, and I need either to talk about it or to write it down to try and kind of condense all these mess of thoughts going around in my head into something that's coherent. So, like you just said, I think knowing that I could do 585 or whatever it was that I'd got so close to, it did make me think, well, do you know what? I know what I've done. I can definitely do that again. I've just got to go a little bit faster or stop a little bit less. Because I rode Revolve 24 thinking, right, I'm going to do 4 hours, get off for 20 minutes, do another 4 hours, get off. And then I quickly realised as I was doing that I was wasting an awful lot of time by getting off the bike, and actually going to the toilet is a big time waster. So became more efficient at doing that. And 2 litre Coke bottles become a very handy tool in your armoury for any indoor cycling challenges. Cut a hole out of the side, otherwise it gets messy.
The hole out on the side, but then it runs
at the top. At the top. Yeah, or cut the top off completely. But yeah, it was just that goal thing of well, I know I can kind of nearly do it, so I must be able to do it. So, right, let's just get back onto the training, and I've got a coach, and Pav's really great at helping me process and push, and then say, right, you've had enough rest now, let's go again. And we get back on and we build up and push, and we just keep kind of having those little milestones along the way, so
excellent.
So good to hear.
Awesome. So that was the qualification. Now how's your preparation going at the moment then? Because it's coming up in June, isn't it?
That's
this
right,
year?
Yeah, June this year. Yes.
This year? I mean, how's the preparation going for it?
1 second. How long is it actually? Like, is it 3,000
Yeah,
miles or something, right?
Race Across America is 3,000 miles. You start in Oceanside, California on the pier, and you ride all the way across to the East Coast. Yeah, east, isn't it?
Yeah, left to right.
Yeah, left to right. And you finish in Annapolis, Maryland, which people keep telling me I say wrong, so I apologise if anyone's American or knows people in Maryland. I'm sorry, but
don't apologise to Americans about the pronunciation. By the way, they call it Buckinghamshire.
Yeah, true. So you do these 3,000 miles, and that alone, distance wise, is tough. But the reason Race Across America is known as the toughest bike race is because you have to do it in 12 days to be an official finisher. So it's not just the distance, it's the time, but also it's the elevation. You have every kind of weather condition as well. So, you go across the Rockies, you've got Wolf Creek Pass, which is 10,000 feet on its own of climbing. And then right at the end of the thing, you've got the Appalachians, which is like sawtooth climbing. So,
and you've also got, you've got pretty hot weather.
Yeah.
You've got sort of like, so hot enough to be worrying about where am I going to get my water, almost.
Yeah.
You've got woodland where you're going to be having bears and tigers attack. Not tigers. Obviously.
Monkeys.
Which country were we in? You know what I mean.
Don't worry me even more.
So you're going to have, bears and wolves. Let's go for that one. No, you're going to have, different challenges there. And then you move on, and then you've got, cold weather and things. So, wow, that planning all those different eventualities and what do you carry and keeping it lightweight and stuff. So,
well, thankfully, that's the beauty of Race Across America. So it's a straight race. So Trans Am is self-supported.
Yep.
Same, it goes across America, but Race Across America is you have to have a crew. So you have to have someone following you at all times, apart from the few places where you can't, and they're short stretches. So. We'll be taking a crew.
Shall we do that? Shall we do it be an additional crew? Let's get like a camper van.
So for watchers and for listeners, right? When Guy arrived, it took us a good 30 minutes just to work out how to use our own equipment, right? The chances of Guy, if there's something that would make Guy ride faster, it's the idea that we were his support crew. He'd be like, if I don't finish quick, right, they are not going to make me do this. But so who is your support crew?
Okay, let's skip the idea.
So I've got a small team. As I sort of said, I'm self-funding this, so cost minimization is a key part of my strategy. without doing it on a shoestring and making it really crap. But yeah, Pav, my coach, is and Chris Drush, they're my crew chiefs between the two of them, because they'll work in shifts essentially. So, and then I've got Matt Seward, who's a fellow ultra distance cyclist and frankly a better cyclist than I am. So I'm really grateful for him and his support, and a few other guys and girls that we'll bring along. So it's going to be a ragtag crew of super ambitious, super fun and happy people.
Brilliant.
And then give it 24 hours and it'll be super fun still.
It will be.
With tears and
Well, look,
hot weather.
do you know what? The thing is, I mean, I tell you what, the thing is, if you don't go along and support someone unless you are there for them and to see them do it. So you've obviously got a group there that they're there, they know you can do it, which is great.
Hopefully. It's
Absolutely.
It's, I'm just riding the bike. Those guys are going to have an equally tough job keeping themselves alive and me and feeding everyone, and like you said, make sure we've got water, but ice as well, and just all the things that come with it. Driving an RV for 3,000 miles is not a thankless. It is a thankless task, frankly.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Oh, it's very, very exciting. And talking to the charities that was doing there, I mean, what charity are you?
So I'm supporting two local charities, the Pace Centre, who are based in Aylesbury. They are a charity that supports children with motor disorders like cerebral palsy. So they've got a school and a therapy centre, and they help about 400 children a year. And it costs them about £2 million a year just to stay open. And they get around £1 million of support from funding. The rest is from fundraisers like me.
Wow!
So it's so important that people like me get out there and do stuff for them. And they've got an amazing bunch of supporters. Chris Hall, who is a much better and more famous cyclist than I am, and equally an amazing guy. He's a big supporter of the Pace Centre.
He also runs a good podcast.
He does, apparently. Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether it's better than yours or not. It's
not a competition, but
no,
it's not competition. But it probably doesn't take him half an hour to work out how to use his own equipment when he turns up.
Well, I mean, if he ever invites me on, I'll let you know. I'll do a comparison. But yeah, no, the Pace Centre are just fantastic. They're just so passionate about the children they support and helping them live a full life. They do so much to help these children communicate and live as best a life as they can.
They're here in Aylesbury, right?
That's right. Yeah, they are. Yeah, and the other charity I'm supporting is Action for Youth, and they're another Aylesbury-based charity, and they support children and young people. Again, to help them live their best life. Really, they do loads of stuff. They've got an outdoor centre in Milton Keynes where they teach kind of outdoor and life skills through team building and rock climbing and loads of cool stuff that you want to do when you're a teenager. But they work with youth clubs and offer life skills and just generally help children from less advantaged backgrounds kind of have the step up they need to kind of get on in life, which is two amazing things. And kids are the future, right? So why not?
Brilliant.
So good.
And so look, they are really good charities. And so if people want to support the charities, where can they go to and support your efforts and donate? Where can they go?
Absolutely. The easiest thing to do is find out more on my website, and it's really easy. It's just my name, guystapleford.com. I have a GoFundMe page, which is linked on the website there. So people can find out about Race Across America, my journey, the charities and the reasons why I'm supporting them, and donate as well if they want to. And obviously, if there's any businesses out there that do want to support me and come along on the journey, there's lots of ways they can do that. And we'd stick your name on the jersey and on the RVs and stuff, and promote you as part of it. So yeah, by all means, come and have a chat.
Brilliant.
I'll buy a coffee.
So excellent.
Good. But there are a couple of companies that support you already, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm
plug them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, again, I'm really grateful for people like Veloccino, who are chamois cream and sports products, but they let me ride in comfort, which is an amazing thing, and they're great people as well. But I've made a real conscious effort with the sponsorship I don't want to call it sponsorship because it's not really sponsorship. It's a mutually beneficial relationship with these companies that I work with, but they're all great British companies. They're all independents and they're all just nice people that are doing good things. And if I get commission from anything I do, it all gets donated to charity anyway. So I've made it really clear I don't make money out of this. It's not what I do it for. So yeah, Veloccino are great people. Obviously, my coach Pav, he's a Brit, although living in California now. So we don't hold that against him because he's a lovely guy. And if you need an endurance coach, he's the guy to go for. He is top of his game. Mark Beaumont and I share a coach, which is quite incredible, really. So yeah, that's really cool. Kendall Mint Co., who are a sports nutrition brand, they're obviously based in Cumbria. Again, great people doing great things. So yes, there's more I should mention, but I don't want to waste loads of time. But there's a section on my website. So if you want to try any of these products, just give me a shout. You know, we can sort you out or get you a discount at least. So.
Brilliant. Great. Look, guys, it's fantastic. And look, for everybody who's listening, we'll also put all links to all of this will be on our show notes. So if you're listening on either iTunes or Spotify, just go into the notes now and you can click and you can donate. Also, do have a look at Guy's website, because although we've had a great time here chatting on the podcast, there is loads of more information about the stuff that he's done. Yeah. And also there's some really interesting stories on the blog there as well, which is really fascinating.
But I also follow his Instagram. I mean, this is how I found you, or how you found us, or
yeah,
we found you.
I was saying.
I don't know who found who.
Well,
anyways,
I was saying to you, Mike, earlier. I used to get my sports massages from a guy, Phil Holloway, in Amersham Sports Massage. Hi, Phil. Who is genuinely a lovely guy, but also when I first went to him, he said he massaged. Sounds weird now. So he massaged Anna Henderson. And who you know very well.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "Oh, she's just done this podcast with these guys. Yeah. It's Veloccino. Go and listen to it. It's really good." And that's literally, I got out of the massage and put it on in the car, and then listened ever since. So,
thank you so much for plugging us. And I think we have to get Anna back here on the show. Like we spoke to her when she just signed the contract back then with Team Sunweb.
Yeah.
You know, she said, Jumbo Visma, like, oh my goodness, we have to get her back on. Anna, if you listen to this, you are invited.
Indeed. Well, actually, we've had a lot of the family on so far as well, haven't we, from Anna's? Brilliant. Yeah. So look, Guy, it's been thank you so much for spending some time with us today. It's been, I think it's been fascinating, your own journey. And I think it's gone on so many different levels. But for some people, you know, they may be in a place at the moment where they can take inspiration and just do some advice from where you were at and to take some action in their life. But through to today, where we're talking about these challenges that you've got. And I think that the one thing I have to say for me that is really inspiring is this idea that you've got, which is, I'm an average guy, but if someone else can do that, if another human being can do that big, incredible, ambitious goal, why couldn't it be me? Absolutely. And maybe, I'm not going to do it tomorrow, or maybe not the day after, but I could physically do that. I could take that on and do it. And I think that's something that's really inspirational for anybody, particularly in the month of beginning of the year. We're just into February now, and people are thinking about what they're going to do for 2022. It's really inspirational. So thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you. It's really kind. And I think, you know, it's cliche, but it's true. The hardest step is the first step out the door, right? And, you know, I did that and it's led an amazing journey. So I think anyone can have their own journey, whatever that looks like for you. Just take that first step and go for it with everything you got.
Because the best stories have not yet been written.
Indeed.
But, I just want to say, I don't know, like it sounds very cheesy or whatever. But although I before today, I really didn't know you. Like I knew you like from your online presence and stuff. And I really enjoyed your Instagram and stuff. Well, not the pictures where you're just in your whip shorts. I don't like.
I've just been looking at this camera and I caught a glimpse of myself, and I hope people don't think I've sat here naked, because I do have shorts on.
Oh yeah.
No, he's naked.
Yeah. There's a Coke bottle next to it.
But what I want to say is, like, again, although I didn't really know you before, I'm really proud of what you've achieved.
Oh, thank you.
This is and I think a lot of people that will listen to this will understand what I mean when I say it is really, really hard where you've come from to turn your life into something positive.
Yeah.
It is so much easier to turn it into something even more negative.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, again, like as Mike said, thank you so much for coming to the to our show to share your story with us. It's, I think, one of the better stories that we had on the show, really.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully I can come back and talk to you about maybe not winning Race Across America, but at least finishing it and having an amazing time. And
Hell yeah.
You have to win it.
Well, no Brits won it yet, and it's sort of this. It's a bit of it's not fate at all. But I'm going to be 40 this year, and Race Across America is the 40th edition this year. So, you know,
mate,
and no British riders won yet.
So then, who knows? Somebody's got to be the first British rider. Why not you?
Exactly. Why not?
Fantastic. I turned 40 last year, and I promise you, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like Mike has turned 40 like 20 years ago.
Yeah. You whippersnappers. Anyway,
one last question. You said the race is like you officially finish it when you do it in 12 days.
Yes.
So when did you book your flight back?
I haven't booked any flights back, actually. I haven't booked any flights there yet.
So you're not very positive.
Well, no, so the flights are sort of the last thing I'm going to book in a way, because I haven't decided whether I'm going to book a flight back or I'm just going to wing it and see what happens.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Because I think I'm going to finish and be a mess.
Yeah.
So am I going to want to fly straight back?
Oh.
Probably not. But similarly, I do want to get back because being away for the kids for 3 weeks, and I think I'll probably just wing it, to be honest with you.
I think also, I mean, you can spend all that time in Maryland being told how to pronounce the local place names.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
You could do that for your recovery.
Also, you don't want to have the pressure in your head, right? Like, oh, I have to be like, oh my goodness, like I have to make the last 500 kilometers a day because my flight.
Well, but then I suppose you get to sit on a plane for 16 hours or whatever
it's
it is.
true, yeah.
Well, no, it's not quite that far from that side.
From the East Coast, I think it's like 6-7 hours or something.
Oh, well,
Yeah, you've ridden half of it before you got there.
Yeah.
That's true, actually.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. And so for everybody listening, just a couple of things. First of all, if you've enjoyed this podcast, which I'm sure you have, it really helps us if you can give us a review on either Spotify or iTunes. And if you can subscribe to the podcast, particularly if you're on YouTube, because we are still learning how we can use YouTube with our podcast. And so your subscriptions would be great. Yes, we can all wave the camera. Fantastic. So thank you to everybody. Look, it's been a really inspiring chat today, and I do hope that what you've taken from Guy, like all of us, will inspire you to get on your bike and get outside, because the best stories have not yet been written.
Da-dum.